Welcome to Vantage This Week, a show where we recap the highlights of the week gone by. US President Donald Trump is back in India's neighbourhood. He has sanctioned the Chabahar port in Iran. He wants the Bagram airbase back from the Taliban in Afghanistan, and he has revived military ties with Pakistan. What does it mean for New Delhi? We'll discuss that. In a surprise outreach, Trump has also called Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It was on the eve of his 75th birthday. They spoke about Ukraine, trade, and India-US ties. In West Asia, Arab and Muslim leaders gathered. They met after Israel bombed the Qatari capital, Doha. How did this escalation change regional dynamics? Apple's iPhone 17 hit stores this week. In China, pre-orders crashed records. In India, queues spilled across floors. And the star of the show was one single color, cosmic orange. All this and more lined up. Let's get started. Donald Trump has a full plate. He's brokering talks in Ukraine, he's pushing for progress in Gaza, and he's fighting a global tariff war. It's a busy slate for anyone. But even amid this chaos, Trump is adding a new area of focus, and it concerns India. The US president is making a series of moves. In Pakistan, he has reset the old ties. In Iran, he is sanctioning a key port project. And in Afghanistan, he is seeking the return of a strategic base. Basically, it's a major push into India's neighbourhood. Let's look at each move, starting with Iran, where India is building a strategic port. It is located in the southern city of Chabahar. India is using this port, this Chabahar port, to access Central Asia. Look at the map. Chabahar can lead to Afghanistan, and Afghanistan leads to Central Asia, all of this without touching Pakistan. And that makes it a very important transit project for India, the Chabahar port. Last year, New Delhi signed a deal with Iran. It agreed to run a Chabahar terminal for 10 years. India also promised to pump in some money, $120 million in investments and $250 million in loans. This is over and above the $26 million that's already been spent on this. But that investment could now be at risk because of Donald Trump. You see, Trump has imposed crippling sanctions on Iran. They date back to his first term as president. But in 2018, he issued a waiver for Chabahar. Basically, the port was left out of his sanctions. Not anymore. Trump has lifted the sanctions waiver on Chabahar, so starting next month, all port entities will also be targeted. Say you finance parts of this port or you operate a terminal, then you will face the same sanctions as Iran. And this puts India in a bind. If you continue the project, you face US sanctions. If you abandon the project, you hurt Iran. So which way will India go? New Delhi says it is studying the US decision.
You would have seen the press statement which was issued by the US side yesterday on revocation of sanctions waiver that applies to Chabahar port. We are presently examining the implications that this revocation has for India.
Let's turn to Afghanistan now. In his first term as president, Donald Trump ended American intervention in Afghanistan. He agreed to pull out US soldiers. Today, there are no US troops or assets in Afghanistan. Again, that may not be the case for long because Trump is now openly demanding a crucial base in the country. He wants the Bagram base just north of Kabul. It used to be the center of American power in Afghanistan. Trump says his original plan was to leave Afghanistan but retain Bagram. So he wants it back from the Taliban. Why? Well, he revealed the reason too.
We're going to leave Afghanistan, but we're going to leave it with strength and dignity. And we're going to keep Bagram, the big air base, one of the biggest air bases in the world. We gave it to them for nothing. We're trying to get it back, by the way. Okay, that could be a little breaking news. We're trying to get it back because they need things from us. We want that base back. But one of the reasons we want the base is, as you know, it's an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons.
The The Taliban has responded. They're open to talks with the US, but on Bagram, it's a strict no. They do not want any more foreign troops on Afghan soil. Then you have Pakistan, a long-standing ally of the US. Trump has reset ties with Islamabad. After coming to office, he also approved a military package for them. In Bangladesh, the US military has become a regular guest. They have staged 3 drills in less than 60 days. Which brings us to India. Trump's India policy remains the same. On one hand, impose steep tariffs on Indian goods. On the other, sweet-talk the leadership. And he did the same yesterday. Listen to what he said.
As you know, I'm very close to India. I'm very close to the Prime Minister of India. I spoke to him the other day, wished him a happy birthday. We have a very good relationship. He put out a beautiful statement too. But I said, I sanctioned them.
He says he sanctioned India. Well, technically he hasn't. He has only imposed secondary tariffs on India. But the word sanction is a big taboo in India. We faced the brunt of Western sanctions in the last century. It's a word that brings back a lot of anger. Not that Trump may care. He continues to dismiss India's concerns and sensitivities. Consider his remarks on Operation Sindoor, the latest ones. Everyone knows what happened. Indian missiles brought Pakistan to its knees, so Islamabad reached out for a ceasefire, but Trump is spinning his own tale. He has once again claimed that he mediated the truce.
We did 7, and most of them were not thought to be settleable. We did India and we did Pakistan. That's 2 nuclear. That was purely for trade. You want to trade with us, you're going to have to get along. And they were going at it hot and heavy.
So India clarified again. It has repeatedly pushed back against Trump's claims, and it did so again today. New Delhi said there was no role for a third party between India and Pakistan.
जहाँ तक थर्ड पार्टी की बात है, इसके बारे में हम लोगों ने बड़ा स्पष्ट रूप से पहले भी कहा है और आज भी कहेंगे कि जो द्विपक्षीय मुद्दे हैं भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच में, इसमें थर्ड पार्टी का कोई रोल नहीं है. तो उसको फिर से मैं एक बार रेखांकित करना चाहता हूँ और स्पष्ट कर देना चाहता हूँ. देयर इज एब्सोल्युटली नो रोल फॉर थर्ड पार्टी मीडिएशन इन इंडिया पाकिस्तान इश्यूज.
Which brings us to the broader question. Why is Trump so interested in India's neighbourhood? He's targeting Indian interests in Iran, he's seeking a military presence in Afghanistan, and he's resetting ties with Pakistan. The question is why? Obviously, there is a China angle. Trump himself admitted that yesterday. He said he wants Bagram to keep tabs on a Chinese testing site. Same in Pakistan. He clearly wants to blunt Chinese influence in Pakistan, but in the process, he's hurting his ties with India. Does this represent a bigger pivot in Washington's approach? Until now, India was the cornerstone of America's China policy. Their leaders openly admitted it. They pitched India as a counterweight to China. Of course, New Delhi was not interested. India refused to become a pawn for US leaders. Is that why Trump is looking at Pakistan, Afghanistan and Iran to weaken China's grip on Asia? The fact is, we can't be sure. But here's what we can say. Trump's interest in South Asia is bad news, especially right now. This whole region is going through a churn. In recent years, governments have fallen in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Nepal. The last thing we need is American intervention. Let's see how India navigates this challenge. A mysterious warplane, a series of military drills and a shaky neighbor vulnerable to meddling. I'm not describing some imaginary spy thriller. This could be happening in India's neighborhood, right next door in Bangladesh. Look at the latest development. A US Air Force plane landed in Chittagong on Sunday. This is a C-130J Super Hercules. This plane is usually stationed in Japan, but this weekend it landed at the Shah Amanat Airport. Like I said, it's located in Chittagong in Bangladesh. It is very close to India's northeast and Myanmar. And this is not an isolated military move. It's part of a series of drills and surveys by the US military. which makes you wonder, what is the US up to and should India be worried? Let's look at the background first. Bangladesh was plunged into chaos last July. That's when radical students hit the streets in protest. They forced Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to flee. After that, an interim ruler took over, Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus. Now, Yunus has extremely close ties to the United States, so speculation was rife about US meddling. Many analysts said that Washington had toppled Sheikh Hasina. And these latest military moves must be seen in this backdrop, in the backdrop of alleged US meddling. Now look at their recent moves. In late July, Bangladesh and America conducted a joint drill. It was called Tiger Lightning. Both armies practiced counter-terror ops and jungle missions. Then in early August, another joint drill was held. This one was called Tiger Shark. It involved special forces from both sides. Interestingly, US weapons were used in this drill. Then yesterday, a third drill began. It's called Pacific Angel 25-3. It involves the air forces of Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and the US. Chances are that's why the Super Hercules flew over from Japan to take part in these drills. Either way, it's a lot of drills in a short period of time, 3 in just 60 days. And it's not been business as usual. Consider what happened earlier this month. A US Special Forces soldier was found dead in Dhaka. He went to Bangladesh in April. Months later, he was found in a posh Dhaka hotel. Again, it does sound like a spy thriller, but what exactly happened to this soldier? The US Embassy won't say. They have been reluctant to share details. Reports say Indian agencies were also concerned by this incident. They feared a US plot in the region. Which brings us to present day. What is the US up to in Bangladesh, and should New Delhi be worried? Some reports indicate a Myanmar angle. As you know, Myanmar has been gripped by a civil war. The ruling junta is fighting a rebel alliance. Apparently, both China and the US are courting these rebels. And this is where Dhaka is key. Bangladesh and Myanmar share a small border. It is just 271 kilometers long, but this border connects Chittagong in Bangladesh to the Rakhine state in Myanmar. And this border is a flashpoint. Earlier this year, the United Nations chief made a proposal. He called for an aid corridor from Chittagong to Myanmar. On paper, I know it sounds noble, but aid corridors inevitably become political. They are often used to ferry weapons and logistical support. Muhammad Yunus and his team okayed the corridor, but the Bangladesh army pushed back. They feared it would weaken Dhaka's sovereignty.
The army will not compromise on issues related to the corridor, national security, and national sovereignty. After August 5, 2024, the army has coordinated with everyone for the sake of the country.
So the corridor did not happen, but these latest drills are happening in the same area near the Chittagong Hills. So clearly the US has not abandoned its project. Chittagong gives them access to Myanmar. It also gives them access to India's northeast, which brings us to the second question. Should India be worried? Well, there are multiple aspects to this. For starters, some of these drills have been happening for years, like the Tiger Shark, which dates back to the year 2009. But times have changed. India used to have an ally in Dhaka. Now there is Muhammad Yunus, and he is anything but an ally. He has single-handedly destroyed India-Bangladesh ties, and in that background, these drills should worry India. At the same time, we should not be myopic, because America is not the only challenge in Bangladesh for us. China is making inroads too. Consider the Teesta River project. It's a $500 million mega plan to manage the Teesta River. Sheikh Hasina's government wanted India to do it, but Yunus is giving it to China. Reports say a Chinese team will visit Bangladesh soon. Then there is military cooperation. Bangladesh's Air Force fleet is aging. One of their trainer jets crashed in recent months. So guess what? Dhaka is looking to buy China's J-10 fighter jets. So my point is quite simple. Both America and China have designs in Bangladesh. It is a strategically located country. China is building ports in Bangladesh and Myanmar. It will offer them something they don't have. A presence in the Eastern Indian Ocean. A direct access to the Bay of Bengal. That's what China gets. For America, the goal is the opposite, to block China's access to the Indian Ocean. and of course to keep tabs on India. New Delhi must be mindful of both these ambitions. And Dhaka? Well, they are playing a dangerous game. Yunus is caught in the middle of a great power rivalry. Any mistake could prove to be too costly.
Missed you a lot.
A birthday is a good chance to reset, to forget old fights and start afresh. Donald Trump seems to agree because late on Tuesday he dialed Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The call was not out of the blue. Both leaders were sharing messages on social media, but neither was picking up the phone and calling. Yesterday, Trump made the move. His call came just minutes before Prime Minister Modi's 75th birthday. It was a convenient excuse to dial him, but this call went beyond birthday wishes. It had the potential to reshape India-US ties. So how did it go? Look at Trump's message first. Just had a wonderful call with my friend Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I wished him a very happy birthday. He is doing a tremendous job. After that, Trump did something rare. He switched to the Prime Minister's first name. Let me quote from the rest of the message. Narendra, thank you for your support on ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. Using the first name is symbolic. Trump is highlighting his closeness with Prime Minister Modi. And how did the Prime Minister respond? Thank you, my friend President Trump, for your phone call and warm greetings. I'm also fully committed to taking the India-US comprehensive and global partnership to new heights. We support your initiatives towards a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict. So both leaders mentioned Ukraine, but the biggest flashpoint was missing. And that is trade, no mention of trade. A team from the US was in India yesterday. It was led by trade negotiator Brendan Lynch. He held talks with officials from India's Commerce Ministry. Afterwards, New Delhi released a statement. It said the talks were positive. It said both sides agreed to intensify the effort. And the US was also upbeat. Washington, too, called yesterday's conversation positive. But will it lead to a deal? Will it remove the tariffs on Indian exports? As things stand, it's unlikely. India says these are not official trade agreement talks. These are informal discussions. Plus, the US is yet to budge on key issues. They want to sell genetically modified crops in India. They want to enter India's food crop market. Both of these demands are non-starters for New Delhi. Almost half of all Indians work in agriculture, and India is committed to protecting their interests. Same with dairy. Trump wants to sell milk and cheese products in India. Again, it's a sensitive industry over here. No government can open up the dairy sector for imports. If they do, voters will punish them. So these are very clear red lines for India. Unless Washington understands that, a deal will be tough. Also, India is not in a rush. Just look at the latest trade data. The tariffs have not upended India's exports. In fact, things have improved. In the month of August, the goods exports stood at $35 billion. That's more than 6% up from last year. As a result, the deficit has also narrowed. It was more than $27 billion in July. It shrank to $26 billion last month. It's marginal, but it's important. The government is also planning for the long term. We have 1.4 billion people at home. 1.4 billion people in India. The idea is to capitalize on that. Prime Minister Modi spoke about it today. He urged people to buy made in India products.
हम छोटी से छोटी चीज भी खरीदें, हम बच्चों के लिए खिलौने खरीदें, दिवाली की मूर्तियां खरीदें, घर को सजाने वाले सामान खरीदें या मोबाइल, टीवी, फ्रिज जैसी कोई बड़ी चीजें खरीदें, हमें सबसे पहले देखना चाहिए कि क्या ये हमारे देश में बना है क्या, इसमें मेरे देशवासियों का पसीने की सुगंध है कि नहीं है? क्योंकि जब हम स्वदेशी खरीदते हैं तो हमारा पैसा देश में ही रहता है.
So India's trade has not taken a hit yet. The government is sticking to its red lines and the US is not budging. Then why have these talks at all? Because India believes in engagement. At no point did New Delhi walk away from the talks. At no point was the process abandoned. Even when Trump imposed his 50% tariffs, the talks were on. They were stalled, not abandoned. Which brings us back to Trump's outreach. What's his end goal here? What is he trying to do? There's clearly a change in approach. Trump tried to bully India at the negotiating table. That did not work. So he's changing his tactic. He's praising India and calling up Prime Minister Modi. More than a trade deal, he seems focused on Ukraine. Trump wants India to stop buying Russian oil. Again, India is not budging. Look at the crude exports in recent weeks. In the 16 days of September, India bought 1.73 million barrels per day. In August, the average was 1.66 million per day. In July, it was 1.59 million per day. So if anything, India is buying more Russian crude. Plus, Trump was not the only leader who wished Prime Minister Modi today. Russian President Putin also called him. And listen to what Prime Minister Modi said afterwards. I'm quoting from his statement. "We are committed to further strengthening our special and privileged strategic partnership." In other words, India won't abandon Russia. And these differences won't disappear overnight. You cannot sway India with birthday wishes or sweet talk. You need to make concessions. A good place to start will be the secondary tariffs. 25% of the levy is over India's deals with Russia. Perhaps removing that will signal goodwill. A massive military drill has just ended in Europe. It was called Zapad. It was a joint drill between Russia and Belarus. It spanned forests, training grounds and seas. More than 100,000 troops took part, tanks rolled, fighter jets rode, and warships patrolled the Baltic and Barents Seas. But this year's Zapad was not just about Moscow and Minsk. India was there as well. A 65-member Indian contingent joined the military drills, not to take sides, but to train and learn, and to build cooperation and trust. And yet it carried enormous weight and symbolism. It showed India's ability to engage on its own terms. It reflected decades of defense ties with Russia, and it highlighted India's confidence in balancing partnerships. Our next report brings you the full picture.
Tanks on the move. Bombers in the sky. And thousands of troops spread across two countries. This was Zapad 2025, the joint strategic drill between Russia and Belarus. More than 100,000 military personnel reportedly took part. From the forests of Belarus to the training grounds in western Russia, the exercise spanned across 41 training areas. Armored vehicles rumbled. Warships patrolled the Baltic and Barents Seas. Nuclear-capable missiles were tested virtually, not live. The aim, according to Moscow, was to test its war readiness.
The aim of these drills is to rehearse all the necessary elements regarding the defense of sovereignty, territorial integrity and protection of the Union State, of Russia and Belarus, from any kind of aggression.
Amid this massive show of force, India also marked its presence. New Delhi sent a 65-member contingent to join the military drills. 57 from the Army, 7 from the Air Force, and 1 representing the Navy. The Indian Army Group was led by a battalion of the Kumaon Regiment. It is one of the most respected regiments in the Indian Armed Forces. India's Defense Ministry said the participation was designed to build cooperation and to strengthen the long-standing spirit of camaraderie between New Delhi and Moscow. The 5-day drills focused on joint company-level operations in open terrain. Indian troops took part in tactical drills, joint planning, and special arms skills. They trained alongside Russian and Belarusian forces, sharing experiences and expertise. But India was not the only foreign participant. Troops reportedly came from Iran, Bangladesh, Burkina Faso, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Mali as well. Observers from at least 23 countries also attended. That included NATO members Turkey and Hungary. And for the first time since 2022, the United States. India's participation was steeped in history. For decades, the majority of India's defense inventory has been sourced from Russia. That partnership has survived the Cold War, the Ukraine conflict, and global political shifts. At the same time, India has also deepened ties with the United States, France, and Israel, among others. Exercising with Russia does not come at the expense of these partnerships. Instead, it demonstrates India's ability to engage all sides on equal footing. That approach ties directly into New Delhi's wider strategy. Strategic autonomy has been at the heart of Indian foreign policy since independence. Participation in Zapad is consistent with that tradition. And it highlights New Delhi's confidence in engaging with all its strategic partners in a multinational environment.
Pakistan has struck a new deal with Saudi Arabia. For a change, it's not a loan deal. It's not a bailout either. This one is a mutual defense deal, sort of like a bilateral NATO agreement. It says an attack on one country will be treated as an attack on the other. Even India has responded to this deal. New Delhi says it is studying the implications. The question is, why has this deal been signed now, and is it targeted at India? Let's look at the lead-up. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif was in Saudi Arabia yesterday. He was hosted by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and the pictures told a story. Riyadh organized a grand welcome for Sharif, an F-15 fighter jet escort, a ceremonial reception, and a guard of honor. Inside, it was clear why. Sharif and MBS signed a mutual defense treaty. They shared a warm embrace afterwards.
Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
سلام الملك السعودي.
So what does this treaty say? Mainly two things. One, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia will boost defense cooperation, maybe joint drills or sharing security assets. But the second aspect is more significant. Let me quote from Pakistan's statement. This is what it says. The agreement states that any aggression against either country shall be considered an aggression against both. Meaning, if you attack Saudi Arabia, it's like attacking Pakistan. And if you attack Pakistan, it's like attacking Saudi Arabia. Therefore, both countries will hit back together. On paper, this is what mutual defense means. Of course, this raises several questions. For starters, how will Pakistan and Saudi Arabia hit back? We know Pakistan is a nuclear power. They also have a first use policy, meaning they can use nuclear weapons even in a conventional war. So will Pakistan use their nukes to defend Riyadh? This question was put to a Saudi official. Listen to their response.
This is a comprehensive defensive agreement that encompasses all military means.
Sounds like nukes are on the table, which brings us to the second question. Is this targeted at India? Well, New Delhi has reacted to the agreement. This is what they've said. The government was aware that the development had been under consideration. We will study the implications of this development for our national security as well as for regional and global stability. So India is saying it was not caught off guard. It knew that such a deal was being discussed, and that in itself is a story. Either Indian intelligence extracted this information or Saudi Arabia kept New Delhi in the loop. Either way, it's a big deal. Riyadh is being extra careful to not antagonize India. Saudi officials say the ties are robust, India-Saudi ties, and will continue to grow. They say this deal with Pakistan is not targeted at any country. But is that really the case? This deal is certainly targeted at other countries, but chances are it's not India. And I'll explain why I'm saying this. For decades, the United States has protected West Asia's Gulf monarchies, whether it's Saudi Arabia or the UAE or Qatar. Washington shielded them from their regional enemies like Israel and Iran. But in recent years, the US has pulled back from West Asia. They have left these countries vulnerable. Just look at what happened this year. First, Iran launched missiles and drones at a US base in Qatar. Then Israel launched airstrikes at Hamas targets, also in Qatar. That's 2 attacks in 4 months, and in both cases, the United States did not retaliate. In Israel's case, the US did not even defend. So naturally, Gulf monarchies are spooked. What if the US is incapable of defending them? What if the US is not interested in defending them? They don't have a cutting-edge air force like the Israelis, nor do they have a missile stockpile like Iran. Maybe that's why Riyadh turned to Pakistan. Like their own army chief said, Pakistan is a dump truck. They can extend their nuclear umbrella to Saudi Arabia. And this is neither new nor surprising because Islamabad and Riyadh have had long-standing military ties. Pakistani soldiers have been deployed to the Saudi kingdom multiple times. Pakistan has also trained Saudi troops, around 8,000 of them since 1967. Even today, hundreds of Pakistani soldiers are stationed in Saudi Arabia. The equation is quite simple. Riyadh gives money, Islamabad gives the muscle. Yesterday's deal only formalizes this arrangement. Of course, Pakistan will spin this differently. They will inevitably link this to India. So let's address that angle as well. India is a crucial partner for Saudi Arabia. New Delhi is Riyadh's second biggest trade partner. Bilateral trade is around $42 billion. Compare that to Pakistan. Saudi Arabia's trade with Islamabad is just $3 to $4 billion. So let's be real here. Riyadh is never going to join a campaign against India. Words of support, maybe, but military help, highly unlikely. Also, this is not Pakistan's first mutual defense treaty. Let's go back to the 20th century. In 1955, Pakistan joined a mutual security bloc called CENTO, the Central Treaty Organization. This bloc had Pakistan, Turkey, Iran and the UK. And it also had the support of the US. But did that help Pakistan in the war of 1965? Or the 1971 war? It did not. Nor did it deter India from defeating Pakistan. So the fact is, mutual defense is a complicated arrangement. It sounds good in theory, but in practice, there are several variables. Having said that, such a deal is not something that you can ignore. At the very least, it confirms one thing, that the Gulf Arab states will not abandon Pakistan. If anything, they will boost ties, and that is something that India should always keep in mind. It's quite the busy Monday in Doha. Arab and Muslim world leaders have gathered in the Qatari capital. The reason? An emergency summit. A summit of the Arab League and the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. And what is it about? Well, officially, it's a response to Israel's strike on Qatar. The one that happened last week. We told you about it. Israel attacked Doha, the capital of Qatar. It said it was targeting Hamas leaders who lived in Doha. Well, the attack failed to kill them, but it enraged the Arab and Muslim world. Qatar called it a breach of sovereignty. It said the Israeli strike was cowardly.
Israel claims to be a democracy surrounded by enemies, while in reality it is building an occupation and apartheid system hostile to its surroundings and waging a war of extermination during which it has committed crimes that know no red lines.
So officially, the meeting was about this strike, but unofficially, it has become a stage for something far more ambitious. There are talks of a joint Arab-Islamic military force, or as they call it, an Arab NATO. And the idea itself is not new, by the way. It was first floated by Egypt back in 2015. That's when the Yemen war began, so Egypt proposed a joint force to coordinate between Arab armies. But it did not take off. There was too much skepticism and mistrust. And that was 10 years back. Today, the picture is remarkably different. Israel has crossed a new line. It has been fighting wars in this region for decades, but bombing Doha is a first. It's not the same as attacking Gaza or Beirut. This is a wealthy Gulf capital, a top American ally, and a key mediator in the Gaza war. So the Arab Muslim world is furious, and suddenly an Arab NATO does not sound like such a bad idea. Leading the charge again is Egypt. They floated the idea of a Cairo-based command. They want the first commander to be an Egyptian. After all, Egypt has West Asia's biggest army. But it won't be all Egypt. They've proposed rotating leadership, meaning all Arab League members will get a chance to take charge. The idea is to create a joint military force complete with air, land and naval units, also special operations teams, trained for counter-terrorism and peacekeeping. But is all of this symbolism, or will it lead to real action? And I'll tell you why I ask this. The Arab world has no shortage of summits or calls for solidarity. What it lacks is execution. And then there's the lack of consensus. Everyone wants something different here. Iran wants all Muslim countries to sever ties with Israel. Egypt wants hard military infrastructure in Cairo. And Qatar wants legal guarantees for its sovereignty. How do you reconcile all these demands? How do you stitch them into one coherent strategy? But let's for a moment assume that they pull it off. Then they will face their next challenge, the United States of America. For decades, the US has been the security guarantor in West Asia. Its bases stretch from Kuwait to Bahrain to Qatar. And now Arab leaders are openly wondering if the US will step up to protect them. And in case you're wondering, the US did condemn Israel's strike in Doha, but only in the mildest of terms. And then Secretary of State Marco Rubio landed in Israel. He'll soon be heading to Qatar. So to float the proposal of an Arab NATO during this visit may be a polite message to Washington. If you won't defend us, we will defend ourselves. But what would it mean for West Asia? If, and it's a big if an Arab NATO were to take shape, the map of West Asia could shift overnight. For Israel, certainly it would be a major shift. For years, Netanyahu's strategy was to normalize ties with Arab states, to sideline the Palestinian issue. The Abraham Accords were supposed to be the model, a peace deal to change West Asia. That was the plan. But an Arab NATO flips that script. And for the US, it would mean losing leverage in the region, a region that it has dominated for decades. But could it actually work? History says, don't bet on it. Previous attempts at Arab unity have collapsed under the weight of egos, rivalries, and geopolitics. But history also teaches us this, that crises create openings. Israel's strike on Doha could be that moment. We'll have to wait and watch. Now let's talk about the Trump-Xi phone call. The most anticipated event of the day, you could say. All eyes were on the leaders of the US and China, Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. Everyone was expecting a big announcement, a breakthrough on the TikTok deal. But it did not come. Chinese state media outlet Xinhua released a statement after the call. It said the conversation was, and I'm quoting, the conversation was positive and constructive. That's the official line, and that's pretty much what they said. The message from Beijing was firm. According to Xinhua, Xi Jinping said China's position on TikTok has not changed. He urged the US to stop using unilateral tariffs She said China wants, and I'm quoting again, China wants a balance of interests on TikTok. At least that's how Shinhua summed it up. The official readout offered no breakthrough, no clear deal, just broad statements. She told Trump that US-China trade ties are important and that Beijing respects, and I'm quoting again, Beijing respects corporate will. In fact, I have the full quote with me. This is what it says. On TikTok, she said China's position was clear. The Chinese government respects corporate will and welcomes companies to conduct business negotiations on the basis of market rules to reach a situation consistent with Chinese laws and regulations and a balance of interests. A few moments back, we also heard from Donald Trump, the US president. As always, Trump is offering a very different version of events. Trump posted a statement on Truth Social. He listed out everything he discussed with Xi Jinping: trade, the fentanyl crisis, Ukraine, and of course TikTok. And Trump says progress was made on all fronts, especially on the TikTok deal. Trump suggests that Beijing has signed off on it, that they've agreed to the deal. And he thanked Xi Jinping for the quote-unquote approval. The Chinese statement, though, made no such mention. So the future of TikTok still hangs in the balance. And Trump has made one more announcement in his post. He says he will meet Xi Jinping next month in South Korea. Seoul is hosting the APEC summit in October. APEC stands for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. So both leaders are set to meet on the sidelines of this summit. Bilateral visits are also on the cards. Trump says he plans to visit China next year and Xi Jinping will travel to the US, although Trump did not share any dates. He said President Xi, and I'm quoting again, President Xi will come to the US at an appropriate time. Now, this was the third call between the two leaders this year. The first one happened in January, just days after Donald Trump took office for the second time. Xi Jinping called to congratulate him. It was a courtesy call. Their second call happened in the month of June. This time, there was a lot on the agenda. The leaders spoke about trade, tariffs, and market access. That phone call led to a series of meetings. Since then, the US and Chinese officials have met multiple times. There have been at least 3 rounds of high-level talks in London, in Stockholm, and just last week in Madrid. Now, so far, these meetings have delivered little. There has been no major breakthrough on trade, not even on TikTok. Before today's call, though, Donald Trump made it sound like he had a deal in the bag. Statements were made about the deal's broad framework. The Trump administration claimed that TikTok in America will have American ownership and that its Chinese parent, ByteDance, will be a minority partner. That's what they said. Further, the data of American users will remain in the US. And Trump had hinted that China has approved this deal.
I'm speaking with President Xi, as you know, on Friday, having to do with TikTok and also trade, and we're very close to deals on all of it. And my relationship with China is very good. You know, we have a trade deal with them. We had a very good meeting the other day, and it sounds like they've approved TikTok, and TikTok is a tremendous amount of money for the United States.
Well, that's what he said before the call, but clearly that's not how it's played out. Both sides have called the phone call positive. But their statements only show how far apart they are in their takeaways. And Trump clearly has his work cut out before he meets Xi Jinping next month. Gaza is a full-blown war and thousands of kilometers away, another one seems to be brewing. This one's in Latin America. Tensions are rising between the US and Venezuela. The trigger is this: alleged Venezuelan drug boats. It's a constant complaint of Donald Trump. He says Latin American gangs are smuggling drugs into the US. His solution? Blow them up. The latest instance was Monday. The US military destroyed a boat in international waters. Take a look at this. This is the second such attack. A similar boat was blown up last week as well. Again, the reason was the same. Trump believes these boats are carrying drugs Earlier, such boats would be intercepted, US forces would stop and search them, but Donald Trump is going a step ahead. He's simply blowing them up.
Well, we have proof. All you have to do is look at the cargo that was like it's spattered all over the ocean. Big bags of cocaine and fentanyl all over the place. And it was, plus we have recorded evidence that they were leaving. We've recorded them. It's very careful because we know you people would be after us. We're very careful. The military has been amazing.
There is a human cost here. The first strike killed 11 people. Yesterday's strike killed 3 people. Now, Trump is calling them narco-terrorists, but the fact is there is no evidence yet. No court has indicted these sailors. No video proof has been presented. Trump is basically saying, trust me, bro. And the worst part? It could escalate further because Donald Trump is deploying more firepower to the region. Over the weekend, he moved 10 F-35 jets to Puerto Rico, 10 jets. Puerto Rico is a US island in Central America. There are 7 US warships in this region, plus at least 1 nuclear submarine. That's a lot of firepower, especially for a so-called no-war president. And it raises a lot of questions like, why this obsession over Venezuela? How will Caracas respond? And what is the worst-case scenario? Let's go one by one. The obsession is down to 4 reasons. Why Venezuela? Number 1, it's a pet project of Trump's foreign minister, Marco Rubio. In America, they call him the Secretary of State. Rubio's parents fled communist Cuba to America. He hates the leftist regimes of Latin America, and that includes President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela. Rubio has long demanded their ouster. As a senator, he pushed for an aggressive Latin American policy, and now as foreign minister, he's leading it. There's a bounty on the capture of the Venezuelan president. Recently, Rubio raised it. He raised the bounty. He doubled it to $50 million. In the Venezuelan capital, Caracas, President Maduro singled out Secretary Rubio. He called Rubio the Lord of Death.
¿Quién? Marco Rubio, the Lord of Death and War, as he is now called. Wherever he goes, there is death, there are bombs, there are murdered children. Marco Rubio, the Lord of Death and War, of hatred.
Of course, Rubio is not doing it alone. Clearly, Trump is on board, and that's reason number 2. This policy shows Trump as tough on drug smuggling. Just think about it. What sounds more dramatic and effective? Intercepting an alleged drug boat or blowing up an alleged drug boat? It bolsters Trump's anti-drug credentials. It's also a distraction from his other troubles, like the Epstein files and the tariffs. Now we come to the strategic reason. Number 3, China. Beijing has made inroads in Venezuela. It is a top supplier of arms to Maduro. It is also propping up Venezuela's oil industry. In fact, when tensions rose, Maduro appealed to Xi Jinping. He asked the Chinese president to help. And the response? Well, only statements so far. Nonetheless, it's a worry for the US. They have long tried to keep China away from the Western Hemisphere. And under Donald Trump, this policy has become aggressive. We saw that in Panama. Trump forced Panama to cut ties with a Chinese shipping firm. We saw that in the Caribbean too. Secretary Rubio visited the region in May. Once again, he called for cutting ties with China. Obviously, such pressure will not work against Venezuela. Therefore, Trump is using the military. And reason number 4 is ideological. Trump has been supporting right-wing leaders in Latin America, like Brazil's Jair Bolsonaro, Argentina's Javier Milei, El Salvador's Nayib Bukele. But Nicolas Maduro is from the other camp. He is a leftist leader backed by communist China. And that makes him an obvious target for Donald Trump. So how is Maduro responding to this crisis? Well, for those unaware, Maduro is a colorful character. He's lashing out at Trump and his officials, but with a Maduro twist. Listen to this.
This is not tension. It is outright aggression, judicial aggression when they criminalize us, political aggression with their daily threatening statements, diplomatic aggression, and ongoing military aggression. Venezuela is empowered by international law to comprehensively confront this aggression. As if I was worth more than bin Laden, as if I was worth as much as Darwin Núñez, the great Uruguayan footballer. Any moment now, they might say I'm worth more than Messi. It would be an injustice. No one believes to these immoral and outrageous attacks.
So Maduro is standing firm. But it's a precarious situation. Militarily, Venezuela is no match for the US. So it's unlikely that Nicolas Maduro will look for a fight, which means that the ball is in Donald Trump's court. What will he do next? Will he attack mainland Venezuela? He was asked this question on Sunday. He said, "We'll see what happens," meaning it's not off the table. The military campaign could expand. Now, here's the thing. Nobody here is a fan of Nicolas Maduro. He is a leftist dictator. He has rigged elections and he has run his country into poverty. Several Western countries do not even recognize his regime, but that does not justify military action. If you want to oust Maduro, go to the United Nations, impose sanctions to weaken his rule, or get United Nations Security Council clearance for a military operation. That's the way to do it. Trump is doing none of that. Instead, he is using unilateral military force. So much for a non-interventionist president of peace. Apple launches stopped being about phones a long time ago. They're now global carnivals, and we saw one play out today. The new iPhone, the iPhone 17 and its many variants went on sale. This debut was as dramatic as the previous ones. There were midnight campers, fights in shopping malls, and even a few sick day excuses that HR departments did not buy. But beyond all this chaos, one shade has stolen the spotlight: cosmic orange. Apple has convinced millions that this shade is not just a finish, it's the need of the hour. Yes, orange is truly the new black. Our next report has more.
At 8 p.m. sharp in China, pre-orders went live. Within 1 minute, JD.com reported sales surpassing the entire first-day tally of last year's iPhone 16. That's not good start territory. That's K-pop concert tickets in Seoul territory. The base iPhone 17 was the darling of the crowd, with the Pro Max vanishing from Shanghai pickup slots in just 20 minutes. If you woke up Saturday morning in Guangzhou hoping to casually stroll in and grab one, sorry, your delivery estimate already reads mid-October. But India, of course, has become Apple's hottest growth story. Pre-bookings jumped 30 to 40% higher than the iPhone 16 launch last year. By 8 a.m., Apple's 4 stores in Mumbai, Delhi, Bengaluru, and Pune looked less like retail outlets and more like stadium gates on match day. In Delhi, queues spiraled across 2 floors. Some buyers confessed they'd been camped out since 1 a.m. A few admitted they'd called in sick to work. In Mumbai, however, the drama peaked. Videos captured fistfights breaking out as shoppers jumped queues. In India, the iPhone 17 is retailing for 82,900 rupees. The iPhone Air for 1,19,900 rupees. And the iPhone 17 Pro Max will cost you 1,49,900 rupees. And yet, Indians are lining up overnight, wallets in hand. Rent, EMI, or that Goa trip your friends keep planning, all can wait because Apple has dropped a new device. But this year, it isn't just the phones themselves causing the chaos. It's one particular color. Looks like orange is truly the new black. Apple's cosmic orange iPhone 17 Pro Max is the star of the show. Pre-orders for it disappeared instantly. In Vietnam, delivery timelines are weeks longer than other colors. In India, the orange model went on backorder almost instantly. And the people who did manage to snag one, they're treating it less like a phone and more like a trophy. The frenzy becomes even stranger when you remember this. The iPhone 17 isn't a revolution. There's no mind-bending new feature, no life-changing innovation. Apple hasn't dropped a wow moment since Face ID or AirPods. And yet, people are still queuing overnight, still fighting in Mumbai malls, still paying more than a month's rent for a slab of glass and aluminum. Why? Because Apple sells more than a phone. It sells bragging rights. Owning the latest iPhone isn't just about technology. It's about belonging to a global club, of being part of the Apple story. analysts estimate that India could ship over 5 million iPhones this quarter alone. Globally, the iPhone 17 launch is pacing ahead of last year. So, in fashion, orange is the new black is a cliché. In iPhone land, it's suddenly gospel. Apple has taught us that a subtle shift in shade can spark stampedes. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Apple isn't just selling phones, it's selling desire, dressed up this year in an orange hue. So if you see someone flashing an orange iPhone 17 Pro Max, don't ask about the camera specs. Don't ask about the processor. Just ask the only question that matters. How long did you wait in line?
It should have been a victory lap. Mark Zuckerberg was standing under violet lights at Meta's California campus. He was wearing what he called the future. A pair of smart glasses. Glasses that can text, stream, and whisper recipes in your ear. All powered by artificial intelligence. It's a push for augmented reality. And these glasses start at $799 a pair. The Meta CEO called it a bold new age of wearable AI. But the demos reminded everyone of a simple truth. Tech does not always bend to the CEO's will. These high-tech glasses glitched, not once but twice. The first time was during a cooking demo. A man wearing the glasses asks, "How do I start this sauce?" He expected a detailed recipe, but the glasses had a mind of their own. They skipped the first few steps. So the man kept asking, "Start from the beginning." But it did not work. The glasses kept skipping a few steps.
Hey Meta, start live AI.
Starting live AI. I love the setup you have here with soy sauce and other ingredients. How can I help?
Hey, can you help me make a Korean-inspired steak sauce for my steak sandwich here?
You can make a Korean-inspired steak sauce using soy sauce, sesame oil.
What do I do first? What do I do first?
You've already combined the base ingredients, so now grate a pear to add to the sauce.
What do I do first?
You've already combined the base ingredients, so now grate the pear and gently combine it with the base sauce.
All right, I think the Wi-Fi might be messed up. Sorry, back to you, Mark.
It's all good. You know what? It's all good. The irony of the whole thing is that you spend years making technology and then the Wi-Fi at the day kind of catches you. All right. Anyway, we'll go check out what he made later.
So that was the first failed demo. The second happened with Mark Zuckerberg himself. The Meta CTO called him on WhatsApp. On cue, the glasses should have picked it up. Instead, the neural band froze. This is a fabric bracelet that translates tiny wrist movements into text. It stopped working. So Zuckerberg stood helplessly on stage, tapping the air, but unable to answer the call.
So I think our call will be coming in any moment now.
Pause WhatsApp video call.
There we go. Uh-oh. Well, let's see what happened there. That's too bad. I don't know what happened. Maybe Boz can try calling me again. All right. Well, I got a missed video call. Okay, there's the actual video call. All right. I'm just going to pick that up with my neural band. This is, you know, it happens. Yeah, let's, what do you think? Let's just go ahead and...
Pause WhatsApp video call.
Let's go for a fourth. All right, try it again. I keep on messing this up. And if not, then we'll go for the less fun option. Okay. I don't know what to tell you guys. All right. But We're going to have Boz come out here, and we're just going to go to the next thing that I wanted to show and hope that will work.
It was a metaphor too perfect to ignore. Meta is trying to wire the future, but it can't even pick up the phone. Although, to be fair, glasses make sense as a bet. People already wear them every day. These are less bulky, more stylish, and Meta is also working with familiar brands like Ray-Ban, so it is a good bet. In fact, Meta entered this market in 2023. Reports suggest it has sold around 2 million pairs of smart glasses since then. And Mark Zuckerberg is not wrong here. Wearable computing could be the next great interface. But the problem is execution and the way Meta has been going about it. In 3 years, Meta has pivoted more times than we can keep count. First, it was the metaverse, a cartoonish virtual world that connects users. Billions were poured into this and billions were lost. Then came the VR headsets. It worked for some time, but adoption stalled outside of mostly gamers. And now they have these AI-powered glasses, and in the background, there's a massive bet on AI superintelligence. $15 billion invested in data centers, poaching talent from rivals with multi-million dollar paychecks, and promising that machines are smarter than humans. You see, tech companies usually bet on one platform at a time or one idea at a time. Apple has the iPhone, Google has search, Amazon has Prime, but Meta has eggs in every basket, from social networks to VR to AR and even smart glasses and AI. But if everything is the future, then why isn't it working? The metaverse flopped, Threads fizzled, VR still feels like a hobby, and the glasses that were supposed to be the next great leap stumble live on stage. And amid all of it, there are protests outside Meta's offices. These are protests by parents, activists, and former employees. They're demanding stronger protections for children online. Some have even accused Meta of burying internal research that showed how harmful their platforms were for children. So Zuckerberg is pitching eyewear that could change your life, but families are demanding that Meta stop ruining theirs. The disconnect is jarring. Meta is chasing tomorrow while still failing to answer for yesterday. So here's the big question. What is Meta really? Is it a social media company? Is it a hardware manufacturer? Is it an AI lab, a streaming hub, a VR studio? What is it? Right now, it's trying to be all of them at once. And it's good to be ambitious. But the problem is this. Meta wants to build the next great platform, but it's still struggling to prove it can master the one it already has. Just a final word on yesterday's India-Pakistan match. Like I said, India humiliated Pakistan. It was a one-sided thrashing, but the humiliation started even before the first ball was bowled. As always, you had the national anthems at the start. Pakistan's players were ready with their hands on their heart. What happened next will shock you. The DJs did start playing a song, but it was not the Pakistani national anthem. It was a song called Jalebi Baby. Let's just say everything went downhill after that.
अपने घर जाना है मुझे घर जाना है मुझे अपने घर जाना है
मजा आ रहा है मेरा जूस कहाँ गया